Start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome everybody to our work session. You're on May 5th, 2025, 9:30 a.m. We'll ask the Secretary Treasurer to call the roll.
Scott Horwitz.
Here.
Present. Chip Marin.
Here.
Len McLaughlin. Here. And I'm present. We're all present, Mr. President.
Okay, all right, so we have a discussion on here, I see, for Trustee Parsons relative to Goose Creek and Flanders.
Yeah, so something that I've been wanting to do for a while is start adding blank shells in some sort of structure to create essentially like a habitat that juvenile shellfish could settle onto, and it would provide habitat and filtration. And a friend of mine named Bob Tiemann does this sort of stuff out in Montauk. And he gave me a sample of these. He gave me 10 of these bags, if you guys want to take them. These are made out of potato starch, so they biodegrade. And so he gave me these last week, and I went out to my shell pile and the compost pile, and I filled up 9 of these bags. And I stuck them out along the bulkhead out in Goose Creek, if you want to take a look. And I also spoke to Kate Rosie at Cornell, and she said their half shells for habitat has tons of shells. These bags come to roughly $1 a piece when you buy them by the roll, and this is something that I think I'd like to pursue. I also, if you look in that photo, I tried my little experiment where I took a piece of flow-through decking and I stuck it inside one of the nooks in the bulkhead, and I secured it in place there. That spot is really interesting. There's a lot of shellfish growing over there, oysters, mussels, the whole region is very shellfishy. And so I'm hoping that, this is the first drop in the bucket, so to speak, about building some shellfish habitat up in this area. And maybe we can learn some things that could be applied to other areas as well.
It comes in a big roll, and you can make the bags any size you want, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
So, yeah, it's my son used something like that for conch bait and for eel bait, and they would make them any size, and lobster pots too. You could pack them. If they're biodegradable, you might want to use a little bit smaller bag so that it would last maybe a little bit longer. I think the tension of the shells hanging there will probably, once it starts to disintegrate, it'll just fall down into the canal, unless you can monitor them and acquire getting a set of spat on them, oyster spat, and at which time you can take the bags and remove them off, and then you can disperse the shells out in an area where the bottom is, the sediment isn't real soft, and then you would actually create like a little mini reef.
Yeah,
this area historically has been a phenomenal shellfish growing area, soft clams, which had set in there for many years, and hard clams back when it was a certified area. Unfortunately, as we know, the area has become, a poorer water quality. So maybe through this program, we can utilize the spat on shell that we catch and make it like a little mini reef inside of Goose Creek someplace.
Right.
Because the majority of Goose Creek that you're talking about is very soft sediment, but there are a couple areas in there where the bottom is harder, and you can put them in an area just basically the mouth of that canal where there's a big sandbar, and that sandbar would block the wave action from a northeaster, so it would make it a really good area to do that kind of a project.
Yeah, I was there on Thursday when I built this, and the tide was way out. I had a good walk around on the point there, and got a chance to kind of get a feel for the place. Yeah, that sandbar is right behind it, or even the entirety of that Fantasy Drive canal there too. I didn't walk around too much in there. But there's definitely some hard pockets in there that, it makes sense to start. And I almost wonder too about, if you get some spat to settle on these shells, take them and transplant them to other parts of the town essentially too, to like maybe kickstart
you
stuff.
have to be careful with that. I know there's some issue with biotoxins in certain areas, and especially Western Shinnecock. That's why, and the Peconic River was another area. So we want to make sure that there's no issue with taking something from one body of water like a biotoxin and bringing it to another.
Sure.
I know there's a certain time of year once you biotoxins basically go away because the water temperature heats up enough so that they go back into the system, the bottom, and they're no longer active in the water column. But I mean, by the time they set on them, it'll be middle summer, and it'll be later in the fall when they get big enough to move them around. So at that time, I don't think there's any issue with the red algae biotoxin currently.
Great, yeah.
Just check with Wade.
Yeah.
I'd take your project to Wade and call Wade and Wade Carden at the EC.
Okay.
Just double check all the, and even the shell has to be on land for a certain period of time before you can use it.
Exactly.
I think it's like 8 or 9 months you need to.
So I mean,
It's got to be seasoned.
I'm sure that the Cornell product, if you're getting it from them, is going to be fine. But you're going to want to like follow the hoops because especially if you're going to move these things. Once you move them, then you have to have relay permits from body of water to body of water.
Right.
So I double check with Wade before you kind of like get too hot and heavy into the project and just make sure we're following all their protocol.
There are some shells at the dump up at Jackson Avenue. I took a picture of them and sent them to you. It's not a lot, but you could probably fill up like a dozen or 15 bags with them.
Right.
Scallop shells from last year and last season.
I got the impression from Kate at Cornell that they have had a lot of success with their shelf, harvesting from restaurants and such. Like it sounds like they have more than they need at this point. So that's a good thing.
I mean, scallop shells is usually the best. Bay scallop shells are usually the best to put them on.
Mm-hmm.
Second best is an oyster shell because the oysters like setting on oysters. And the third would be a hard clam shell or a skimmer clam shell. I mean, some of the skimmer clam shells that we put in meacox, you get 50 or 60 spat on a shell, and which is good, right, Chip? I mean, that's a pretty.
I mean, anything that's been dried out. I mean, I've read studies on, out west they use the PVC. They split the PVC.
Yeah.
My favorite is you use Christmas trees.
Christmas trees.
And you dip them in lye, and then they set, and then it's all you do is bang the Christmas tree, and it all falls off, and then you have singles. So I mean, there's a lot of ways to catch a set, but it's a good first step.
Yeah, it's just a good way to create some structure.
Well, I
structure
mean,
that they like.
I think if you had a few extra of those bags hanging them off the flying point bulkhead in meacox.
I kept 3 of them at my house specifically for you for that.
That to me, because last year there was a set there, and anytime you introduce any new shell in that meacox system, they really seem to acquire a very good set of oysters.
Yeah, clean shell, and it's the timing.
Yeah.
Like I know that like Norman Bloom and all those, they have like an exact timing of when they put their dry shell out.
Yeah.
So, you don't want to put it out too early and it gets muck and scum on it, and then you don't catch as big a set. But if you're within 3 weeks of the set, you're going to catch something.
I would say the 20th of June.
Yeah, I was.
Meacox?
Yeah, I mean, it's all over the place. You never know with meacox.
If you have a low bay and a warm spell, everything will just
they'll pop.
Yeah.
But I would say that you want to strike for catching a set somewhere around June.
Yeah.
Right, end of June, middle of July.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in there is kind of your window.
Right. Cool. Yeah, I just show you. We'll get together. Show me where I kept a couple of these bags in reserve, and we'll put them over there and see how they do.
Yep.
Will
do.
But it's I just like the idea, of it's the what you use, and this being a natural biodegradable product.
Yeah.
No metals, no plastics.
Well, that was the whole problem with the cages originally. That the vinyl cages, once you put the shell in there or the onion bags, basically, then you're getting microplastics in the water. This is not microplastics. This is a natural occurring, substance. So you got to be careful when you use the plastics and you get the microplastics, because the shellfish filter that and then we eat them. Got to be environmentally sensitive here.
Baggies.
Play a long game. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Definitely.
Okay.
All right. So let's move on. You have also a waterfowl hunting location permit application for determination with a no response notice of violation for permit 22.
Was this the one that we discussed prior, or is this a new one?
We had spoken about Stephen Bent's last Monday, the last Monday that we were here. And he called me the next day and told me the situation, and it wasn't as cut and dry as it seemed. He had hunted the spot. He didn't have a duck blind because the duck blind was stolen. So it appeared that, he never set the blind out. That's not true. He said he hunted it from shore. He said he had called several Marine Patrol members multiple times, but there was issues with people being away. He also said that he had a baby back in December and also had gotten laid off in November. And so he was kind of having a hard time. It sounds like I'd like to give this guy a grace with a probationary period. It wasn't a matter of him just not doing nothing.
Well, evidently, his blind was stolen. That's the report that I read.
He said he reported that to Marine Patrol.
Does he have a CC number on the report that he can provide, or a copy of the report that he can provide to the office?
He probably might be able to.
Because when you call the police and make a complaint, they draw a CC number and they'll give you a copy of the field report. If we can see that, then he reported it. But if he didn't, it's kind of his word against the PD.
Yeah, and then I just want to reiterate kind of what Rich Frank said is not to call personal cells. Rich was make sure when you call the office.
Absolutely.
So
Leave
that
a
way,
message on the
leave a
machine.
message on the
Absolutely.
machine. Not so that way we're not playing.
Absolutely.
He
Well,
said,
I
they
think
said.
the permit application, it's all on there, the numbers you call and the protocol to do it. It's
Absolutely.
But there's still no excuse for not filling out your paperwork in a timely manner. I mean,
Well, he could've
we
filled-
give them tons of grace. Like we call them, the trustees called them.
I don't think I called this guy. He wasn't on the list of calls the first time around.
First round.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had called a bunch of other people, and they, but this guy wasn't on that list.
Let's see if he has the
Well,
backup
that's a courtesy.
document.
So he did his paperwork for his renewal, he just didn't call the Bay Constables to have it inspected. That's what the NOV was for.
Okay.
That seems kind of harsh to take his spot away.
Well,
from
there's
that.
no blind there to inspect when he had
Yeah, if it
called
got
for the
caught.
inspection. because it
At
got-
that point, that should have triggered a call to our office that his blind had been stolen.
But wouldn't a Marine Patrol would have said something?
He might
to
not.
us?
He might not have called and said his blind got cut.
All right, well, let's
But
see.
that's what
Yeah.
council's saying. There should be a CC
If
number.
you
Yeah.
report something is stolen, believe me, even the Bay Constables will still draw a CC number for the field report because it has to go to the central records of the police department.
Kevin, is Shakira on Zoom?
I think
she's not.
No? Okay.
Right, I think it's a reasonable request to get that central complaint number.
All right, we'll reach out to him.
So we'll hold it in the meantime.
Huh?
We'll hold it in the meantime?
I would.
Okay.
Yeah, I would. You
Yeah,
can
hold pending.
Hold it.
pending-
Yeah, I would hold it pending.
I mean, if he's got the CC report, that shows, at least to my satisfaction, that he was proactive in trying to head off a problem.
I think that's a reasonable request.
Yeah.
Agree. All right, so let's move on to the general permit applications for determination. Trustee Warner, you have,
Pergento Trust 1, 11 Canal Way, Hampton Bays, Lanyers. Good morning.
This project's a bulkhead reconstruction in place, a landward, and they're removing, there's a boardwalk there and some landscape, and they're removing that. And they're putting beach grass towards the east end. And instead of having a boardwalk, they're just gonna put sand 10 feet back on the west end.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much compliant of what we need, and you want to see pictures of it?
yes, I'd love to. Thanks.
It's in your neck of the woods growing up.
Yeah, that's right, that's where I grew up.
So I think it's what we would ask for, basically,
Same height.
same height,
Yes.
which would be consistent with all the bulkheads are in that area, except for one of them way to the south. So it's consistent to what we had asked for on previous applications in this area, so, James, is there any issues? I mean, it's,
I didn't see any issue with it. Looks
no,
good.
I didn't, I was down at the property actually a few months ago looking at other applications, so looks like it's good to go to me.
Used to row a little sport yak up and down that canal. You know, a little hand line with a little eagle claw hook,
Oh, yeah,
you know, back in the day,
Fun.
early 70s. We weren't allowed fishing rods. The boat was too small. We had a hand line.
Kind of like on a bamboo thing.
Not even. It was, we would
So we good?
troll.
You want to take a look at it? Sure.
We would
Stamp
row
plans,
troll.
so.
You have stamp plans?
Yeah, that's fine.
I say advance it.
Yep, it's fine.
Joe wants to take a look at it. So.
Did you want to discuss the other one, Russ?
Go with it.
Yeah, let's do what else you have here.
I just had,
Straightforward.
trustee Moran, I think at 15 Long Point Road, Sag Harbor.
Yeah, we might as well. While you're here, we'll get you all squared away.
Thank you. Yes, this is a dock, upper Sag Harbor Cove, and just a 4x38 open grade decking, 18-foot ramp, and a 6x20 float and a T, chocked float. And they put it in position there. They originally were going to put it, there's a little cove, a little boat basin area. On the, you can see to the right of the plan over there, but the neighbor has an existing dock. They didn't, I don't know, so that ruled out that area, so we thought the best next area would be where we propose it now.
Yeah, that's the proposed area. So then we have soundings on that.
Yep, 2.5 feet, set that float. And we tried to put an area with, you know, if you go anywhere else down the canal, they kind of cross more wetlands. So we tried to put an area where reduce the wetlands crossing and wouldn't disturb the existing upland cleared areas to kind of fit into that spot.
Do you have a reasoning of why it's got to be chalked? It's just because it's real close to the tolerance.
Yes. Yeah, not necessarily you guys, but the other agencies like to see that in case there's a low tide event,
Yeah.
severe low tide event.
I really don't have, I mean, there's plenty of water around, you know, like, it's not like we're gonna, there's another existing dock that's, you know, at the neighbor's dock.
Go with it?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
And that has stamp plans as well, so you're good to.
Advance it?
I would advance it if it's
Yeah,
reading the blue
advance
book
it.
and you're good with it. There's no issues.
Okay,
Yeah, there's no issues.
thank you.
All right, so let's go back to Trustee Warner. You have Ed Consultants here from Madison Avenue Capital Partners LLC.
Yep.
See Mr. Herman is here.
1323 Meadow Lane.
Good morning, sir.
How's it going?
Good.
How are you all?
Good. It's an application for, I don't know, Rob, you want to explain it to us?
Sure.
I was there this morning again at low tide to view the application, and, you know, this application is very consistent to what we approved on two other properties just to the west of this. It's a Dug Lagoon on the south side of Shinnecock Bay. But this application provides access so you can, with a kayak dock, right?
I mean, Ed basically just said what I was going to tell you. It is, do you have, yeah, I can just give you an aerial. Do you have an aerial? Oh, better yet. Yeah, so that's the subject lot. You can see that Dug Lagoon is the one that provides basically water access to those homes along Meadow Lane inside of Shinnecock Bay. So this is not a structure that goes directly to the bay, but to this interior lagoon. You can see just on the bottom of the page there, that's the green wall fixed catwalk to two properties to the left, to the west there. And this basically will line up with that. Obviously, there's a bit of an angle to get to that point. But we've designed it, as James was showing on the plan, that we kind of go out at the shortest distance from point A to point B and then put an angle in it so that at that point it's basically, you know, in terms of where it's going over
In the
trustee
Dug Lagoon.
waters in the Dug Lagoon.
Yep.
And I just had a picture here just to give you some ground context. That stake is not the exact end of where that's shown. That was just where I was able to kind of get myself to for the surveyor, because I was setting the line for Squires and Holden. But you can see that that's a ground shot. Oh, there you go. Thank you. That's the part that's basically in line, and we had one for Simotis that was farther to the west.
Yep.
So
What's the overall length of it?
46 feet.
yeah, so it's 106 feet is the angle, and then 40 feet is the turn. So it's 146 feet total. Obviously, in those other cases, those homes on the aerial are kind of much more right on top of the lagoon. So there's a lot of developed area, a lot of lawn on this property. I mean, most of this property you can see from the aerial is actually, maintained in a natural condition. This semicircular area here is the developed portion of the property where the house is, and I just kind of drew in this very rough line. This is not to scale or anything, but it's basically what you're looking at there. And that's the other catwalk that you see up there.
And there's a handrail or no handrail?
We did not show a handrail. You're not, you're not talking about being like out, over open water. I mean, if
No,
there's,
it's
if,
fine.
if
We
you-
prefer no handrail.
I was gonna say, if you wanted to see one.
No,
We prefer
no, no.
handrail. I just wanted to
I
make
thought
sure.
you didn't want.
We don't want to see
We don't want to see
No.
one, so I just,
Yeah, you can see there's no rail on the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
It's
too much.
consistent with the other two docks were approved there.
Correct.
and I see you still have the pilings up fairly high from the dock. Is that?
Good with that.
Yeah, I mean, the reason we do that is actually because there is no handrail. So otherwise, you're just walking,
You're
if
walking.
somebody
Something-
lost their balances, there'd be nothing
Something to
to
lean on.
grab onto.
Yeah.
Trustees, I think you usually do like 34 inches above.
And that's where it's at.
So
Yeah.
that'll be a regular permit condition on the
Yeah.
permit.
And,
usually.
and this scales in CAD exactly to your blue book.
It's light penetrating, which is good because it's lots of wetland there, so.
Yeah, it's open grade.
Yep. And it's a removable stairway at the end.
Correct. Yeah, on the dock that, a similar one that we just finished, not the one immediately to the west, but a door down from there. I don't know if you remember the application, it was a Hickey application. And the village had actually asked us for a removable stair at the end. And so when we ended up amending your permit, we included, so we're trying to be exactly consistent with each of these other.
Well, I do know that the
Yeah,
Army Corps and the state want wooden steps, not removable aluminum. And I had two dock builders called me up and asked me, and I said, the reason we prefer the removable is because of the ice and the damage in having it ripped up, and then a removable stair, you just put it on at the, beginning of the season, take it off during the winter season. It makes all the sense in the world, but we're not dealing with that.
I don't think it's something the state will care about
No, I think it's a good project,
in terms of it.
and it's Blue Book compliant, so I think it's good in
Advanced.
advance.
But
Okay.
I don't yet have engineer stamp
Well,
plans.
pending those.
Okay,
That's
so
a
we're gonna
standard.
hold that.
I tend to like to go through this with you all first.
That makes
before we
sense.
invest. Yeah. Okay, great.
All right.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
You have nothing else here, right?
No, I have one more.
We have a general, that's something on the next
Yeah,
section of the agenda.
yeah, we're
That's
not gonna get to
really a
that, so.
discussion.
Right, exactly, as long as you've satisfied the,
Yeah, I think it
Conditions.
was just stamp plans for what you had already.
right.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
Yeah, good.
All right, you have East End Landing
Yes.
for Adam Steinberg, 8B. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, we have, 8B Old North Highway. It's basically replace an existing staircase down a bluff in the same location as per attached plans. Approximately 46 by 4 feet wide. No treated wood will be used of any of the components. There is a covenant on there, and I asked our attorney to review it, in which time I believe that everything is good to go, correct, Joe? You sent me a,
I sent you the
so,
covenant conditions. If they're acceptable to you, they're acceptable to me.
okay. Yeah, we've discussed it a couple previous sessions, so I think, James, we got everything we need, so we
Yes.
can advance it?
Yep.
Okay,
And their stamp plan, so you can advance it completely.
okay, all right, so we're good to go.
You don't have anything else on?
You're welcome.
You too. So now we're going to trustee McLaughlin. You have First Coastal. I see Billy Mack is here. 142 Town Point.
Yep.
And then after that, we'll discuss the one you have at 650 Dune. All right?
Hey, everybody, good morning.
We'll get you in and out efficiently.
Hey, Billy?
A ramp, catwalk, and float, is that correct?
This is
Open grate.
grade 142, right? Is that what we're starting with? I don't know. Yes. Yes. Okay, so this was the one that we withdrew to finalize with Conservation Department to actually go down the middle of the property as opposed to adjacent. Everything was compliant in Blue Book on the first section, but then we shifted it to the middle of the property. Everything.
It's a 60-foot pier line in North Sea Harbor, I believe.
Yeah.
We're at 90, 88, but water, I don't. So the catwalk and ramp is 88, and then it's another.
So that's an issue. Cut it back. Yeah. So we just gotta, can we pull it back? Let's look at those.
We won't have enough water for the floater.
Well, let's see, where does it gotta go back to, James? Can you put a mark on there?
Well,
Can't mark
it's
it.
88 and then 60, right? So that's 18 feet.
This is the main water here,
So-
so I don't know.
So that's
With
95, so.
Well, it's 88 for the whole thing.
18 feet, cut back.
There's somebody on the other end, so
So where does that get you to? One,
it's 1.5.
all right. So we'll get you there.
Interesting.
You wanna go back to the drawing board, speak to the client?
That sounds like what we have to
That's
do.
what you gotta do. Let's put it on hold, let him go back to the client.
That's odd though, because I mean, I've walked across. There's like a channel right close to the beach there. I mean, Ed, you've walked through there. That's that one area that's kind of like,
It's like
on
deep
the
to
other
the
side
shore
of
and
that
then-
flat. And it goes deep right
Yeah.
along the shore there.
Yeah.
There, so I mean,
And then it shallows and then gets deep
yeah,
again.
I mean that's really deep, right close. I mean, you might have more water the closer you are, honestly.
Well, who did those sounds?
Fox.
All right, well, why don't you go take another look at this?
Yeah, I'll
You gotta take a look
Any
at it.
chance of physically going there with waders and walking off?
Absolutely.
I mean, because a lot of these creeks, they were drag lined close to shore, and the material was put up to put the
Yeah.
bulkhead in, and it's.
I think he's gonna have a better shot at getting in and out closer than he is, because then he's gonna be out on that other flat.
Go back to your
Yeah.
drawing board,
Yeah.
Okay,
Mr. Billy
makes
Mack.
sense.
All right, let's put that on hold.
Got it. Hold.
And then if you want to.
Yeah, let's go to the other one. You got 650 LLC at 650 Dune Road in West Hampton,
Yeah,
KSB Real Estate.
right. This is
While you're sitting there, let's.
a little more straightforward. This is a bulkhead that's been there forever, looking to replace that. This is on a section of Dune Road, Mauritius Bay, that does get there's a lot of fetch. So they get overtopping on the existing bulkhead, has been overtopped several times. So we're looking to increase some height there, and then add a dock. We did do the hydrographic, and what we're proposing to do is go 34 feet with a just elevated catwalk out to 1.6 feet of depth, which is our closest deep section in that area.
And how are you relative to the adjacent bulkheads as far as height currently?
So all of those bulkheads are pretty old. There is one that's 2 doors down that was rebuilt. It seems like it's within the same height.
And you want to go higher with yours?
We would prefer to go higher because this bulkhead is getting overtopped.
Thing is, I don't see anything about that in the comments on the permit application.
Let's see.
Yeah, you need to add the height increase to that. I see it on the plans. I think it says 7 inches.
Okay.
Yeah, it says 18 inches max on the cross section.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's
That's it.
It's gonna be considerably higher to the adjacent bulkhead. That one looked brand new, the one neighbor.
It's not brand new, but yeah, it's probably about 10 years old. The one just adjacent.
right
Yeah,
there.
that one right there.
With a lot of wetlands right
Yeah,
there.
the wetlands aren't eroded. It looks like the property that's with the bulkhead proposal replacement is eroded because there's no vegetation there.
Yeah, so right where those Phragmites is, it drops down about 2 feet. There's like a hollow from it being overtopped.
Yeah, but it's also because there's no grasses or anything holding
it's just
holding the sand, so that's inevitable. I'll speak for myself, but I don't know if we can increase the height relative to the projects that are a fairly new construction.
I know the bulkhead that's immediately to the west is just as old as this, and they're going to be replacing.
Well, can you give us some rationale instead of just saying that up to 18 like the state does, leaving it up to us locally? Can you give us a rationale of how that's going to tie back into the property, not create an issue behind the bulkhead with ponding water? You know what I mean? Like give us a good rationale towards look, we need 8.5 inches, because of.
Right. Well, I know that this particular, so it's a new owner, but the previous property owner every year would have to bring in sand because of the overtopping, and they don't have a leaking issue. The bulkhead's still kind of fine; it's not leaking sand. So it overtop, it would scour right where the Phragmites are and where this open sand is, and that would get washed away almost every winter, and they just replace it. So rather than going through that process, it would, I think, be prudent to increase the height to minimize that overtopping the
So
best
what's the
we
deal
can.
with the returns? What's
So the return
What's
is
the
it's a
returns?
reverse return on the adjacent property. So you'll see the return on the right, that's owned by the adjacent property. Our property that we're applying for is the one with the sand in front of it in one portion.
So
and
you're
the
going
other
to butt up
portion-
to their return, the reverse return.
So okay.
And I know,
So that sand section there on 650, that's the section that keeps getting overtopped and replaced.
exactly.
But it just seems so stark how on one side where they have the beach grass, they don't seem to have that problem.
Well,
on the right-hand side.
that's because they got the deep rooted.
Yeah, they got
Wouldn't that-
vegetation.
It doesn't allow it. The water comes up and goes back
Cuts down the
without doing
erosion.
the damage.
Cuts down the erosion.
Yeah,
It seems like a better solution.
Yeah, and
than
this
going
will
up
be
higher.
planted.
right. It would be much better for them. But okay, so you're going to use the adjacent return.
We're proposing return here,
Okay.
but because who knows how long that bulkhead is going to be until they replace it.
Right. So
And
you're
then
going to
return
do
there. Exactly.
Two returns.
Two returns.
7-foot returns.
2 7-footers,
Which will be elevated to the
same height.
as the bulk.
Whatever we do,
Which is,
And then how's that going to tie in to coming back towards the house?
Slope down a little bit, so that should be, it might level out what's existing there right now.
So
with
I'm
that
just trying to figure out
increased-
if it comes up, if the water, if you do get water in on the back side of it, how's it going to play out? Is it going to pond there, or it'll be tied in?
Well, right now with the Phragmites, which would be are west of the boardwalk, that's the area that gets overtopped and scoured. So there are hollows in there. Phragmites still don't mind it. That's why they're surviving, but it is definitely getting overtopped there, and that's where they're losing soil. So the idea would be to come up, maybe it's not 18
But
inches.
is there a return there now? Is that a return? Is that an old
That's the
existing?
walkway.
Okay, so there's no existing return there currently?
No, but there is on the far end of it, on the other side of the Phragmites in this photo. Yeah,
so
right
the
around there.
project goes
But-
down further to the
But
west.
that's not, is that his?
That's his.
That's his as
Uh-huh.
well?
Half of his property's got the Phragmites, the other half is completely open with sand.
Okay, but you're only applying for a permit directly in front of the house, not in front of the Phragmites currently?
Yeah, half of the property is Phragmites, so yes, it'll include that Phragmite.
Oh, so
portion.
you're doing the whole
The
show?
whole thing, yeah.
What's that length there? Is that 80-something feet? What is that?
The whole length is 80.
Is that 89
Thought it was 78 here.
or is it 78?
78 feet.
I see 78. I see 7. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just getting a little confused where you have a 10-foot wide buffer,
Right.
but you're saying that the existing bulkhead from
No, it's wait. You got to add those numbers, correct? Or what is the total ask? Because okay, 78 feet, but you're showing 69 and then 34.
No, 34 is the length of
the
the.
dock.
Yeah.
The dock.
That's the dock.
Okay, the dock. Okay, I'm trying to.
Yeah.
Oh,
so-
does
78
78
feet.
feet does it include the returns? Is that what it is?
So how does this math work out? I'm trying to get this math to work.
Is reconstruct in place approximately 78 feet of existing bulkhead.
So what is it across the front?
69.
Construct new 7-foot bulkhead return along western property line.
So the confusing part is that
78, yeah.
west
Yeah,
of
7
the
and 69.
walkway is all Phragmites.
Yeah.
So that, and it looks like it's somebody else's property, but it's not. So we'd be replacing the whole thing, and that's where we're seeing scour is, because he hasn't been filling that. He does try to fill it a little bit. It's a little harder because it's not in front of this.
So you're proposing to basically remove the Phragmites and put grass in front of the Phragmites, and then have the Phragmites grow back in through the grass?
They will. But we'd like to establish the beach grass at least within that 10-foot section.
Just the beach grass.
I agree. But Phragmites are what
Phragmites
they
are
are.
going to do what they want to do.
But you like to get the nice, native beach grass in there.
All right, well, that's how we're gonna start.
Yeah.
And we'll be, a little reclaimed material there. So hopefully the frag won't like that as much as the beach grass will.
Probably love it.
It probably will. And it's been there for quite some time, unfortunately.
You should get a an elevation, make that determination of what's going to make sense with the whole property, and then go with that.
Without harming the other
Go
neighbor. You
with
know
that.
what happens when you increase your grade.
Go with that.
I don't necessarily subscribe to that
He doesn't.
because everybody's getting that elevated water during storms.
Yeah.
Whether you have another 6 inches or 18 inches is not gonna
It's coming
push the
behind it.
water to the other
It's going to come
property.
from the west or east.
It's coming around it. The thing is that you don't want to create like some lousy ponding issue or have it sloping back at the
Right.
house. You just want to get all the elevations to work nicely
Yeah.
on the
It
property.
is kind of self-contained with returns, and we are gonna go up a little bit and are bringing in fill to.
So how much fill do you
accommodate
is on the application bringing in?
50 yards.
Is that
It's
enough?
being dredged from in front of the bulkhead.
Yeah. It's reclaimed, so.
So you're just doing.
And it, I know these both, certainly the one to the west is just as old as this. They'll be in soon to do something. That whole stretch is low. Even a regular spring tide gets overtopped with a little bit of wave action. I think it does make sense to incrementally increase the height a little.
Yeah, no, I think it does make sense for you to take an increase. I'm just trying to figure out what makes the most
What the
sense.
number is.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, maybe 18 is a little much. I think a foot there would be
That's
fine.
what was on the top of my tongue. was a foot.
Yeah, I mean, that'll make a difference to this property.
Realistically, a foot, but you're only going to raise the grade behind it 8 more inches. So
Then
you got that 4-inch lip
Yep, got
that will
4 inch.
protect anything washing in, and it kind of like balances the property out.
Yep.
And I think 18 inches is going to cause scouring on either side of the project, so you got to be careful. I think a foot you probably could get away with would have reduced the scouring potential.
I think a foot. would
And I
be
think
reasonable.
planting it's going to be really helpful with that
Yeah.
overtop. I think the combination of those two elements that you're incorporating here, taking that bit of increase plus getting that vegetation there, I think you're going to have a good project.
All right, so I will come back with a plan with 12-inch increase. If you guys
Fix
are good with
those
this.
dimensions on the plans just to make it more clear of
Sure.
how many
The
feet.
total dimensions
returns.
of the bulkhead.
We'll check the calculations.
Okay. I mean, they should be on the money, the 69 across the front and the 27 returns.
If you can get that buffer,
That doesn't add up to.
No,
It doesn't.
it's 80.
I was trying to get, that's what I was looking at. I'm like, this math, how's this math working out?
Yeah,
You know,
And then where are you guys at with the dock?
It's small, it's, you know.
yeah, it's a short dock. I mean,
It's not big.
it's going out, which is appreciable. You can use a foot pedal kayak with that, so I
Yeah.
think you're good, you know?
You can pull up a whaler if you had to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm okay with that, and I think doing a nice buffer is gonna help this property out a lot. So I think
What's
you
that, like 20 foot from the other property anyway, so it's.
Yeah.
And it's also linking to the existing walkways.
I think you got a good project here.
Yeah, it's a good project, once you nail down the heights and the amount of fill you need.
And correct the dimensions.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so we'll define it at 12 and revise, and if you guys are good with it, we will stamp that plan.
Yeah, I think that you got a good project going here.
That's good.
Great.
All right.
Thank you guys very much for your time.
All right, man.
Appreciate it.
All right. Let's go on to the general permit applications for determination.
No,
I
we got
have
Fred,
one
Frederick
more.
Williams.
Oh, we got one more?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Shore
Jumping the
Road.
gun.
Shore Road.
Oh, there you are. Come on up.
That's you.
Come on down.
We almost forgot you. You're so quiet over there. How are you?
Trying to
This is a bulkhead and returns, correct?
No returns, just bulkhead. Simple remove and replace project. Remove and replace an existing bulkhead. This property owner actually owns the house next door as well, so we're only doing one at this time. Remove and replace, same location, same position with an added 6 inches of height. I did not show a buffer on here because
You're gonna say no buffer?
I don't know where we're gonna put a buffer. I'm trying to figure that out, just because the house is there's an existing deck. And I wanted to ask your recommendations on what you suggest for a buffer on this.
Let's take a look. What we got here?
Here we go. Picture. They have sand there right now.
Does that cottage actually have a CO still?
Yes. I don't know.
It's out of our jurisdiction.
Yeah, I
Right?
know. Well, it's in our, yeah.
It is or
It's
not?
almost attached to the bulkhead.
I see that.
It's left goes onto the cottage, obviously.
Yeah, 6 inches would make sense. And
Yes, and when we reclaim, we'll just backfill behind the back of it.
yeah, you may as well dredge out in front of it. What was there once ended up in the creek probably.
Yeah, there's a lot of muck in front of that one.
So the buffer.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I mean.
don't know how to.
No beach grass, there's no, I mean, as long as.
You gotta do some buffer.
I'd like permeable stone for as much of it as you can possibly do.
What do you want, 6 foot along, in between the cottage?
Yeah. His pictures are currently there. It's just clean beach sand. It looks like they tried to shore up the bulkhead because it was failing. Yeah, here's an even better picture.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's the cottage. I mean, it's probably stone would be appropriate there, right?
yeah, I think so.
Some kind of buffer, you need something.
Well, a blue book compliant buffer. I think the stones could work out.
Yeah.
No?
What do you want, Jim, what do you
You wanna
think?
put some beach
I'd like to
grass?
see some vegetation somewhere.
Wanna
on
mix
there.
them up?
You know, you could do, I don't know where the access points.
Stone at the access points and the remainder is beach grass?
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
don't.
yeah.
I just
Combination, that could work.
The
Sure.
worry,
Yeah, that would
I
make
have
sense.
with the beach grass is there's not enough sun there.
You could do other, you don't have to do beach grass, you could do other native vegetation.
Well, it's gonna get sun 50% of the day because it's on the east side of North Sea Harbor, right? So, and then
It
Because
should get
the-
It
sun.
doesn't have to be,
the town facilities right across the,
Well, you can do some, you can do
You-
pond, whatever.
you could do a different native vegetation. There's a whole list, right? That
I love Cape America beach grass. It just
Takes over.
roots,
Yeah.
it grows, and it's a good choice that I've been using for a lot of bluff work as well
yeah.
on the North Fork.
does the job.
I put as much air as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would.
And
it
just
would
use the stone
complement
for
the
access points.
project. Yeah.
Access points.
What's the
with
time
stone.
frame for the drain bulkhead? You said the neighbor want. you said
I
the,
don't know. It's
Okay.
funding would be the timing.
Fair enough.
And is there a specific, would you want 10 foot off the face of the bulkhead for the buffer?
Ideally, yeah, right. Yeah.
10's what we shoot for, yeah.
Obviously, you're not gonna, I don't think you can get 10 feet in between the cottage
No.
and the.
No, yeah,
so
yeah,
it's- And the deck, obviously.
You gotta get what you can get, or you gotta move the cottage. That's-
Yeah, it'd be beneficial
Well, it's
to
gonna
have
be a
some
challenge
vegetation.
because you got a bulkhead there with no dead men and lay logs, so you might.
Well, he'll go under, yeah.
That was my
Right
question.
under the
Yeah,
cottage.
yeah. I mean, because it is like 4-foot face or 5-foot face of bulkhead that's exposed, so you need some substantial engineering of it. So we asked for engineer plans.
So, to advance this, if I added in the buffer and gave you
Well,
stamp plans.
we
is that-
need to see plans that reflect your buffer, so.
You resubmit and then you re-review?
I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then we know what we would be
See your access
proposing.
points with the stone, where the buffer's gonna be, indicate the hill piles where they're
So
gonna be.
Plant spacing and like
We'll hold this
determine the plant spacing of the American beach grass, 12 inches on center.
I vote we hold this until you're submitting plans.
Can you also add no treated lumber will be used for the entire project?
Okay.
To the cover sheet with the buff,
And no treated
buffer language and the plants too.
If you do that, you should be good to do that. If you do that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, so I think that does conclude the general permit applications, correct? There's nothing else? All right, so let's go to the general permit applications for determination, final stamp plans review. 20 Shinnecock for Vanessa Ryan. We got what we need there, James?
So, just pull it up. Yes,
All right, matches, everything matches?
appears so.
We have Red Creek Equities, 14 Duckwood. We got Joe Taramina, 4 Mill Pond Road.
We got everything?
Okay. Then you got Alexander Ham, 279 Tower Point.
It's good, stamp.
Good. So that concludes the work session agenda. I know we have a bit of an executive session to get to. Does anybody else have anything they need to discuss?
I'm good.
We're good? You're all set? Okay.
All right.
So I will make a motion to adjourn and go into executive session.
Second.
Seconded, trustee Warner, all in favor?
All right.
Okay.